yards on a Sunday night. Sunday night football just ended. What a game. Definitely not the outcome I was hoping for on that one. But Brandon, how's it going? How you feeling about week three? Predictions? I went 0-5. I'm just gonna say it. I went
No,
0-5.
you can go on five.
No, I did, I'm pretty sure.
No, you went 1-4. You took the Vikings, right?
Nope.
Oh, you took the Seahawks in that one? Oh, you did take the Seahawks. Yeah, yeah, you did. You did go on five. Yeah, I thought you went 1-4. I thought the whole time you were 1-4, and I was like, all right, at least you got one. But I didn't. I did. I thought you took Minnesota the entire time.
Yeah, no, I took Seattle and I don't know why, but
Well, I mean, I also took Seattle, but
just
if you were to, I guess I'll say I still have one more pick left, but I'm 3-1. If you were to tell me I were to get one wrong this week, I would not have expected it to be the Seahawks game. I will say,
yeah, I was very confident in the fact the Seahawks would
yeah,
win and win by a lot, but it's ended up, yeah, it just ended up not being the case. Hey, listen, this week to me, just in terms of raw, just outcomes of the games, is just some of the most shocking stuff. I mean, yeah, I just wasn't expecting any of it. I wasn't expecting the Rams to just come out and just look like the better team pretty much the whole game. I know some people were, but I wasn't expecting it to look the way it did. If the Rams were going to win, I was still expecting it to be at least a little bit close. It really wasn't close at all. But I
no,
guess we'll start with Sunday night.
yeah, yeah.
Packers, 49ers. I mean, I guess I'll start with the last drive of the game. I mean, Aaron Rodgers, 37 seconds, pretty much from his own 20-yard line, leads them all the way to like the 49ers 32-yard line. They end up kicking a 50-yard field goal. Mason Crosby nails it for the win. When Juszczyk scored that touchdown, I had a feeling that there was too much time. And I saw all the 49ers celebrating, and I was like, please just don't, I hope this is not enough time for Rodgers to go down the field and score a field goal. But Rodgers and Adams, I mean, the two best players in that team, in many people's opinions, essentially gave them that win. I thought Adams was done for the game for sure. Like that hit he took from Jimmy Ward in the fourth. That was in the fourth, right?
I think it was in the fourth.
Yeah, it was sometime earlier in the fourth. He was knocked out. I mean, he was out
Yeah,
cold. His body was limp on the field, out for 2 minutes, pretty much. No idea where he was, and somehow they let him come back in that game, which I'm just like so shocked by, honestly. But if he wasn't in that game, right? If the Packers medical assistant staff or whatever didn't let him come back in that game, I'm 95% sure the 49ers end up winning that game. But because, and I've underrated Adams probably more than I should have, but because Adams is just so good and Rodgers is obviously so good, they end up making that drive. Pretty much two big chunk plays, get them in field goal range. And I mean, anybody who doubted Rodgers was into it. I heard people saying Rodgers intentionally sold week one. That was a horrible take. I didn't think that. I just thought it was a bad game from the Packers. I still thought Rodgers was like invested in the team or whatever you want to say. But really just that game, Sunday night game was maybe one of the best games, if not the best game of the year. And not the outcome I was hoping for, honestly. But
yeah. First, before we get to Rodgers, I guess I do want to talk about Jimmy G because I thought he played pretty well, at least down the stretch. I mean, maybe the first half I know he wasn't great, but down the stretch, I mean, I'm looking at their last drive where they did score that touchdown. They had the 3rd and 10 goes 39 yards to Kittle, another 3rd and 10 goes 12 yards to Deebo Samuel. I mean, he was making plays. I know he had that really bad fumble on the drive before that was inexcusable, but I thought that drive, if they were to win that game, that would give him a lot of confidence with him going forward. And then, obviously you left too much time, which, you know what, I didn't really think it was. I mean, 37 seconds, no timeouts. I think that's just bad defense, to be honest. I mean, obviously you have to give credit to Rodgers and Adams, but for you not to be double covering him or playing a better coverage than what they were doing is almost inexcusable in a situation where they can only get a field goal. And if they go middle of the field, it has to be at least 20, 25 yards. I think it's inexcusable defense on the 49ers part. So you have to give credit to Rodgers for making the throws and Adams making the catch, but I think that's just really bad defense from the Niners.
We just got finished watching that game. That game literally just ended
Yeah.
10 minutes ago. I do want to go back and watch that last drive, but I will say for a pass rush that's supposed to be elite in that last 37 seconds, it felt non-existent. I felt like Rodgers had a while, and if Rodgers has that far to sit back and throw, I'm not sure. I mean, Adams has found a way to find a hole in the zone. I'm pretty sure on the two chunk plays they were playing some sort of cover two, maybe cover four. I don't know. It was just a really safe defense. Safety is really far back. And Adams was able to find a hole somewhere deep in the middle.
It was, but their linebackers again. We did just watch it, so it's kind of hard to remember. But their linebackers, at least on the first one, were playing way far up, and they even said it on the broadcast. That's why Adams caught the ball. They were playing probably 15 to 20 yards when they should have been playing probably 25 to 30 yards, or whatever the yardage was. They were just playing 5 to 10 yards shorter than what they should have been. So I think it was just bad defense, to be honest. I think you have 37 seconds. That's like the offense probably has 4 or 5 plays, realistically, which is I think what the Packers did. They had 6 plays with one being obviously a spike. So you basically had 5 plays, and one being the field goal. So, I think it's just very bad defense on their part. Because you know what? You should win that game. I know it's Rodgers, but no timeouts, 37 seconds. I'm sorry, you should win that game at home.
You did everything you need to. I think there's a couple questions on the 49ers side. And I mean, Jimmy G played well. I think he had a good game. I will say that fumble is inexcusable. I mean, and that kind of comes to the point where it's like the 49ers played a relatively all right game. They didn't have a bad game by any means. And just like the Super Bowl, it just wasn't enough to get it done. And I know in this case, Rodgers led you, 50 yards down the field for a field goal within 37 seconds left in the game. But I mean, if Jimmy G can't win this game, then don't you kind of get to the point where you're just like, he can't get us over that hump? It's not like he even really played bad down the stretch, but I think you could say that about Jimmy G in the Super Bowl too. He didn't make like any like god awful mistakes. Obviously he missed that throw to Sanders in the Super Bowl, but I mean, I just think you kind of get to that point where you're like, Lance has to play. He has to be the starter for us come for the postseason. And I'm not saying start Lance next week, but I think you have to ask yourself that if you're the 49ers. And also another thing is, out of all the head coaches that are going to choke this game away, honestly, I'm really not surprised it was Kyle Shanahan. He just has his face deep into that stupid playbook. And I think a fault of a lot of the head coaches in this league are all they care about is calling their plays, and they really have no situational awareness. And I honestly think the 49ers, however you want to critique their defensive play calling and just their defense in general in that last 37 seconds, I don't think that's an error that Bill Belichick makes. I don't think that's an error that a top tier head coach makes. And I still think he's still a great head coach. Don't get me wrong, but we've seen Shanahan choke multiple games just throughout his whole coaching career, just whether it be stupid play calling. He's just not situationally very aware. We saw it in Super Bowl 51. We've seen it in Super Bowl, whatever the 49ers Chiefs one was 54, 55. I don't know what it was, but 50. Yeah. I don't even know what we're on at this point anymore, but I'm not surprised it's Shanahan. I'm not, all I'm saying is I'm not surprised it was Shanahan, really.
Yeah. I mean, I guess not really that, but more so Lance. I thought like the first half of Jimmy G didn't play well. And I thought when they put Lance in on that touchdown right before halftime, I thought he was going to start the second half, because they had nothing going offensively. And Lance, like, obviously, you bring someone in like that, it's a spark. And even, like, he's in there for running, and we'll see about his arm when he actually does play. But at some point, it's going to happen. I would assume this year at some point he is going to be the starting quarterback. We'll see when exactly it is. Probably a softer time in their schedule. I know they play Seattle next week. So, yeah, I'd be surprised if he were to start next week. And he definitely isn't going to. But definitely I thought that he was going to start that second half for them. Because, again, he gave him that sort. He got that touchdown again. You could do different plays with him. Shanahan likes guys you could do more plays with. Jimmy G, it doesn't like – he kind of does the safe plays with them. And, like, Lance, it seems like he'd be a little more exotic with them. So I was a little surprised by that. But, Jimmy G came out. He played really well in the second half. Again, that fumble, that just can't happen at that point. And they're lucky they held him to a field goal. Again, that could have easily been a touchdown at that point. Then that obviously would have put the game away. But we'll see what happens with their starting quarterback situation because again, they're 2-1. They play Seattle next week, then they play the Cardinals in Arizona, then they're home to the Colts, and then they're at the Bears. So I mean, it's not like an easy schedule. It's not a hard schedule, but I'll be very I guess I'll be looking into when Lance is going to go in and starting quarterback because you would probably agree it's going to happen at some point, right?
I don't think you treat this like a Mahomes, Alex Smith situation, but because I honestly think that was probably a misplay. I mean, I understand the value for sitting your rookie quarterback to let them develop. But I mean, the 49ers window, I don't think is like an insanely huge window, at least not with like this current roster. I think they'll be competitive for many years, but they have some aging players. And I don't think you can just waste a year by just saying, you know what, we want to develop Lance, let's sit him on the bench for this whole entire year. I think at some point you have to ask yourself if Jimmy G can win you a Super Bowl. And if the answer is yes, then you stick with Jimmy G. But I think a lot of people would think the answer is no. This game, and it sucks because I really like Jimmy G, and I thought Jimmy G could have been the quarterback for the Patriots when he was on the Patriots. And I thought he could win you a Super Bowl. I'm not sure that anymore. And then I know the 49ers Chiefs Super Bowl, that was when everyone kind of soured on Jimmy G, but I mean, he's still a really solid quarterback. He's an above average quarterback in the NFL, in my opinion, still. But yeah, I mean, yeah, if he can't win you the Super Bowl, then I think you have to go with Lance. It's tough to decide when that transition is because is it literally next week? Because ideally you'd like to get Lance as many reps in the regular season as possible if you're trying to compete with him as your starter this year. But at the same time, do you want to just expose him week 4 of the NFL and have him get killed by the Seahawks and the Seahawks gain momentum because they come out first matchup of the season with the Niners and they pick off Lance twice and then Lance's confidence is destroyed? It's a really tough decision to decide when to start Lance. I don't think you have to overthink it if you're the 49ers. I just think that whenever you happen to realize that you're not winning the Super Bowl with Jimmy G and that Lance is your best shot, I think that's when you make the switch. So even if Lance does come out next week and throws 2 picks, I think that's just a reality you might have to face. The counter argument is this is the NFC West. And if Jimmy G is the best regular season quarterback and he's the most stable and consistent, that you genuinely need that to even think about making the playoffs, which I think is a valid statement. So maybe you try to get Lance in there when you just have a super weak couple weeks in, so you can get Lance just some free wins, or at least what you would think would be free wins. I don't know, but yeah, it'll be interesting to see.
Sure. And that, I guess the last thing is the softest part of their schedule is games 13 through 16. They go Bengals, Falcons, Titans, Texans. But again, that's the end of the season. So it's rather that he's going to be starting already at that point, or if you get to that point in the season, you're most likely sticking with Jimmy G, unless this team starts to falter a little bit and then maybe they're around, they're not, really in the mix for the division anymore. And they're kind of looking at that wild card spot and they need some wins and they'd rather go with still the experienced guy and probably the better guy, honestly. It's just more like a spark thing and a different look for your offense, I would say, with Lance. So at that point, it's kind of questionable at that point. But again, we'll see what happens. I do like Lance. Again, we haven't really seen him that much, but I feel like he's going to be pretty good, to be honest. I do think he's going to be one of the. I think he's probably going to be him. I think him and Mac Jones are really going to be the 2 best quarterbacks from this draft, to be honest. The way I look at it.
Really.
And I know the Patriots didn't play well today, but I think Jones, I think him being in New England, I think it's a perfect situation. If he's in another team, I don't think he's going. I think he'd probably be one of the worst quarterbacks on this draft. But him being in New England, I think it's just a perfect situation. And they were talking about it earlier today. I forget who said it, but they know what to do with him on offense. They know how to use him. Unlike where Lawrence, they're still trying to figure it out. He has 6 picks already. Obviously, Wilson has 6 picks. He's trying to go for the exciting plays, not trying to do the normal stuff that Mac does. Mac's a pocket passer. He knows who he is. He knows to hit his checkdowns, hit his receivers. He's just a rookie. I mean, in year 2, year 3, I think he's going to be a lot better. So that's the way I look at it. Again, rookie year, not every rookie is going to be amazing. Obviously, Lawrence isn't good, so at least right now. But that was just something quick. But I think the first game that we should talk about, I guess after that game, is Chargers Chiefs. I think probably the I guess maybe not the most surprising, but obviously somewhat surprising because it's Kansas City at home playing and they lose in September. Now they're 1-2. The first time they've been under 500 since Andy Reid was the head coach, which was in 2013. I think he became head coach, 2014. So obviously a super long time. This game, it was a weird game. It just seemed like the Chiefs were going to win. You kind of have that drive at the end where one for the Chargers, did you agree with going for the touchdown on their last drive, or did you think that they should have, kneed it or ran it and then just kicked the field goal?
I think you go for the touchdown.
I mean, it was almost a situation like tonight where there was 32 seconds left and you're giving the ball back to obviously one of the elite quarterbacks in the NFL. And they did need a touchdown, the Chiefs, so it is obviously a different situation, but I was a little surprised, I will say.
Yeah, I was talking to a friend like right before the 1 o'clock games, and he asked me if I thought the Chiefs had a chance, and I pretty much told him how on the podcast I just had picked the Chiefs, and I thought, no way, like Andy Reid off of a loss, his Chiefs team off of a loss. I essentially treat this team as like the new Patriots, and I treat Andy Reid as like one of the best coaches in the league now, even though I thought he really wasn't before, but to me, it's a shocking loss. I was so confident the Chiefs would come out and just roll the Chargers. I thought Mahomes would come out and throw for a bunch of yards, 4 touchdowns, no picks. I don't think Mahomes for his standards, I guess Mahomes didn't have a great game, but yeah.
Well, they in the first half, they played really bad. I mean, they were down 14-3 at half, and that field goal came with 2 minutes left. But the first 3 possessions of the second half, they scored a touchdown in all 3 possessions. So, but obviously the bad play that he had was that interception where he just threw it up to Kelsey. I mean, that was just a terrible play that he had. And then that's obviously what led to the touchdown for the Chargers. But I will say on that final drive, Tyreek has to catch that ball. That first pass, that was right in his hands. He has to catch that. I know he was getting tackled basically, and it maybe could have been a PI, but it hit him right in the chest. He should have caught that. And then it was, I think it was it Pringle? It was, I forget who else. Someone else should have caught one ball it was another one. They should have caught, I think it was Pringle, and he dropped it. And then obviously, didn't have a chance at the end with the Hail Mary. But just like you said, a surprising loss. Obviously the Chiefs, they're still going to be one of the best teams. I still expect them to win the division, even at 1-2, even with other teams in that division being 3-0. I think obviously the Chiefs are still the best team in that division, but it's a little surprising, a little concerning, I guess, in some ways. But I think they're almost a team that isn't bored of the regular season, but
super complacent.
Yeah, they couldn't really care as much about the regular season because they know they're going to get to the playoffs at most likely 1 or 2 seed, and the playoffs is obviously a different story.
What kind of pissed me off about their loss last week to the Ravens was I think it was Matthew who said, this loss will make us better. And while I think that is a true statement, I don't think that's something that the player should be saying at all. I just think that's like, if you think this loss will make you better, then it's like you're already treating this loss like it's really nothing because you think that you're the better team and all that. And it's just, I think this week was much more of a wake-up call. And I think the Chiefs treated last week like they were the analysts and saying that it was their wake-up call for the Chiefs, even though they didn't treat it like a wake-up call. I think this week is their wake-up call. We've seen a bunch of just like perennially elite teams have bad Septembers. And I think that the Patriots did it a lot. The Packers do it like almost every freaking year. I think it's something the Chiefs will have to, it just happens the Chiefs aren't a dynasty yet, but there's a very solid chance they will be, or at least they feel like a dynasty in general. I think it's important that they treat this loss like an actual wake-up call. And honestly, I'm still not worried about the Chiefs at all. I know you aren't either. This team to me is still just, listen, Mahomes is still the best quarterback in the league. That bad pick that he threw to Kelsey, that's like the worst play that he's made in his career, pretty much. And they played not a great game, and they lose to the Chargers by 4. I'm not worried about this Chiefs team at all. I still think the Chiefs are the best team in the league, probably. Yeah. So
yeah, and
what I will say actually is I was thinking about this. I was thinking like if I could change my Super Bowl pick now, I would change it to the Chiefs. Because so the reason I didn't want to pick the Chiefs to start was obviously it's a boring pick. I feel like it's a slightly more exciting pick now to be like the Chiefs are going to win the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I guess.
I don't even know that how much more exciting it is because everyone still knows the Chiefs are like
Yeah.
but
I there's gonna be some overreaction Monday where people are gonna be like, oh, they're 1-2, maybe they lose a couple more games, whatever. They're still the best team in the NFL. I don't think it's really close, to be honest. And I don't see. I mean, yeah, I don't see a like if you still don't have the Chiefs, like if you already picked them and you somewhat want to change after week 3, then something's wrong with you because obviously they're still the favorite to get to the Super Bowl in my opinion. So, but they do play the Eagles next week, so that should be a soft landing spot for them. I would I would expect them to probably destroy the Eagles next week, but that was probably the most surprising game from the 1 o'clock games. I guess we can get into Rams-Bucs. We kind of talked about it a little bit, but that was from the 4 o'clock window. This was a game where you were heavy on the Bucs, I was heavy on the Rams. Again, I'm more of a Rams fan. They're like as in a team who I'm rooting for as much, like next to my favorite team, the Cowboys. It's probably the Rams for some reason. I don't really know why, but I find myself always seeming to root for the Rams. And you know what? Today showed why I think they are the best team in the NFC. I know you probably have said the Bucs, but I've been on the Rams, since the preseason, the first 3 weeks now. They don't have any running backs. Sony Michel was in there, obviously an expatriate who was bad for you guys, but Stafford showed that him and McVay just are a perfect combination. This is why Goff had to go because Goff could never do a game like this. He just couldn't. He can't control an offense like this, and he can't make the throws that that Stafford was making. The defense wasn't amazing, but it was good enough. They were getting pressure on Brady at 3 sacks, and they definitely hit him a lot more. And they were just making life difficult for them. Only 35 rushing yards to the Bucs. Obviously, you just can't have that. I know they were losing, but you can't have that and expect to try and balance out the offense and win a game. So I thought the Rams I thought they just outplayed them, and we'll see what happens when the playoffs come if they do meet. But I think the Rams really are the best team in the NFC.
I mean, there's no doubt about it. They look like the best team in the NFC right now. I still like the Bucs. I will say about the Stafford and McVay thing, while I do agree with it, the counter argument would be the Rams pretty much they beat the Bucs last year, and Goff also got the Rams to a Super Bowl. And Stafford's concern has really never been the regular season, and it's never been like, can he make a throw? It's just, can he be consistent? Can he not get injured? And when in the playoffs, can he deliver? And that's what I'm looking for this Rams team. McVay is another guy that I think he's a great head coach. I just hope he doesn't have his head stuffed in the playbook and not worrying about anything else. I think that, listen, I picked the Bucs to win this week. Am I shocked that the Rams won? No, this was a game that I wasn't like, I'm 99% sure the Bucs winning this game. I believed it, but I'm not shocked by the outcome. The Rams played better. So the Bucs running backs are awful. I even though Fournette had a good postseason, he was a guy that I never liked. From the second the Bucs signed him, and really, aside from 3 games in the postseason where he just decided to have like good games, but really he never looked even that spectacular. His best move the whole postseason was a spin move that really didn't even like look good at all, if we're going to be honest. I don't think he's very good, and Ronald Jones I think is okay, but really the running backs aren't special. The offensive line obviously had a bad game. It just altogether just did not play well. You need to be able to run the ball. I don't think the running backs help you, but I think running backs running backs don't really mean too much in the NFL when it comes to the running game, in my opinion, honestly. I think it's 75% the offensive line. The offensive line just had a bad game. But in general, I think the Tampa offensive line is a top 10 offensive line in the league, and I'm not really too worried about it going forward. But yeah, I mean, the Rams right now look like the best in the NFC. It's just going to come down to, can Stafford be enough to get the Rams over the hump compared to what they couldn't do in 2018? I mean, that's really what it is. And can Stafford stay healthy and be consistent? Because he really hasn't done that before, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I think just being on a better team, having a better weapons, I know he had good weapons in Detroit, but it's a different system here with I think a better offensive line than he's had some pretty good offensive lines in Detroit, but when you're always losing because your defense is never as good, you're always passing, it's easy for guys to rush you, obviously. So that's why he was getting hit so much, in my opinion. So I think with this offense, it's basically 2.5 seconds or less. You're releasing the ball. You can go deep. I mean, Deshaun Jackson. I mean, like when was the last time you heard Deshaun Jackson's name? He had a 75-yard touchdown. So Cooper Kupp looks like one of the top 5 receivers in the league right now. You still have Robert Woods, Tyler Higbee. So they should have a ton of weapons. Obviously, McVay is a weapon himself too. So um, I think Stafford can lead them to a point where they couldn't get with Goff. And again, I know they got to the Super Bowl, but they only scored 3 points in a Super Bowl. And I know it was against the Patriots and everything, but 3 points in a Super Bowl with a team with an offense that I think was second in points per game that year behind the Saints, at over 30 a game. So that was just embarrassing. And again, I think Stafford in that situation, I think he can do something that obviously Goff couldn't do. But is that it from that game, or do you have anything else?
No, I think that's pretty much it.
All right. I think the next game is probably the Ravens-Lions, only because of obviously the game winner. This game was a pretty bad game, honestly, especially for the Ravens coming off that huge win to basically be losing. They probably should have lost, to be honest, in this game. But the 66-yard field goal, and it was an insane kick. Obviously, it hit right off the crossbar, then bounced in. A lot of times that would just bounce straight out, bounce right in. And just like the most Lions way to lose, I would say. You had a win and you lost. And somehow Lamar Jackson hit Sammy Watkins for like a 40-yard pass. I don't even know how that was possible, but that was a crazy win.
Yeah, but out of all the game, okay, so okay, I'm gonna come out with a little bit of a hot take. I don't even know if it's hot take at this point, but I think Justin Tucker probably just solidified himself as the best kicker of all time in my mind. And I'm a Patriots fan.
I think so.
That kick is an insane kick. And I don't know that there's any other kicker in league history that makes that kick. Not even because it's a game winner, but just because it's a 66-yarder. The record was 64 and that was in Mile High. It's an insane kick. He's the most accurate kicker of all time, probably has one of the best legs, if not the best leg. I'd like to. I honestly, I hope there's some big time kicks for him to make come this postseason or any postseason really. Kickers are something that are very easily memeable in the NFL. It's just something that people meme on because it's a kicker. Like how hard is it really to make a 50-yard kick if it's your job and you're getting paid $1 million plus to do it? It really shouldn't be that hard in some people's minds. But seriously, for Tucker to make that kick, it's insane. The only kick he really has ever missed was that extra point against the Saints that one year where they lost that game because of it. But
didn't he also miss a kick? Was it last year in the playoffs or was it 2 years ago? I know he missed a kick in the playoffs. Maybe it might have been last year when they beat the Titans. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I remember he did miss a couple. I think he missed 2 kicks in the same playoff game.
Maybe, but even still, he's not only is he the most accurate kicker, which that is a fact. He is the most accurate kicker, but he probably does have one of the best legs of all time. He not only has he just made the 66, but he's like almost automatic from 50 plus, 55 plus. He's almost automatic, which is crazy. But on the kicking thing, I've always heard this idea of just never have field goals. If you just took out field goals from the game and extra points, so you would if it's fourth down, you can never have a 10-7. It would have to be touchdowns or I guess safeties, I guess. But it would never come down to a kick to win the game.
So no special teams essentially. You essentially start the ball at the 20-yard line, right? Or
yeah, I would assume there'd still be punting, obviously, because you score a touchdown and everything like that, and it's field possession anyways. But you would never come to a point where your offense, in this game, Rodgers, he gets you all the way down the field, and then you have to rely on a kicker, someone who obviously doesn't, plays 2 minutes, technically the entire game, to win the game, even though, Aaron Rodgers just took you down the field in 30 seconds with no timeouts.
Listen, to me, kicking is still one of the most exciting, if not the most exciting parts of the sport. It's not, and it is kind of lame. I agree. And if you're playing the sport and let's say Mason Crosby had missed that kick. You saw after Rodgers made that throw and spiked that ball to the 32-yard line, he was clearly amped. And if Mason Crosby went out and missed that field goal, that would feel awful for anybody in that game. But I still think kicking is a super exciting part of the game. Not the kicking itself, but just the fact that, I don't know, there's nothing to replace it with. 4th and 10 from the 30-yard line, from the opposing team's 30-yard line. What are you going to do? Punt the ball or go for it? Some people hate kicking. I don't really understand it, but
Yeah, I don't hate kicking, but it's always an idea that I've always heard from people saying that, like, because you would never have a situation where you need a game-winning field goal again, unless there was like a safety or something. But the odds of that honestly happening, it's pretty low anyways. But like, you would just always be in a 7-7, 14-14 situation where a touchdown, could win you the game.
I
But
think special teams has been taken out of the game enough to the point where I think it's like fine where it is. I mean, we've essentially removed kick returns from the league, from the game.
yeah,
So, I mean, like the most action we get with kick returns is essentially like what happened Sunday night tonight, which was like one kick gets brought back to like the 50-yard line or the opposing team's 40. And that's like, but it's really like, there's nothing that goes into it at this point anymore. It's really just like, there's no like rhyme or reason. We don't really have like this team dominates special teams anymore. The Patriots kind of used to be that, but now the Patriots like sign way too many special teams players and are still bad at special teams somehow. So yeah, I don't have a problem with kicking. I know I've definitely heard that take though too about just like removing kickers, and kickers are dumb and kickers are a meme. But I mean, I think kickers are fine.
yeah. And the crazy thing about that was that Prater, who obviously held the record before Tucker broke it, had a 68-yard field goal before the half. I thought he made it. I was watching that live. I actually thought he did make it. And he almost did. I mean, he only missed it probably by 2 yards, 3 yards maybe from 68. And again, that wasn't in a dome. That was in Jacksonville, where I'm assuming it was pretty hot. So, I don't know, the heat or whatever. But I thought he made that. But then it turned out that was the longest play, obviously, in NFL history, 109-yard kick return touchdown. So it could have been the longest field goal in NFL history, turned into the longest, it's been done multiple times, but that was a crazy sequence of events though.
I think that 66-yard record is going to get broken. I mean, any kicker that if Justin Tucker gets the opportunity to kick a 72-yarder and mile high, I honestly think he'd make it. Any kick is a big leg.
I don't doubt that he'd get it there, to be honest. Obviously, you got to make it, but I think it'd get broken. It has to be the right situation, like right stadium, right conditions, right, for half, end of game. It has to be like the perfect situation, obviously. But I think for sure it'll get broken. If it's not Tucker though, I think it would probably be someone down the line. I don't think there's a kicker in the NFL right now who could make that.
Yeah, probably not. I
think it would be someone probably like maybe 5, 10, 15 years. Because like kickers, I mean, they do like you see like some kickers, like they can kick the ball pretty far.
Yeah.
Like the new guys. So
yeah. I will say, okay, so from this conversation, my take is Justin Tucker, best kicker of all time, coming from a Patriots fan, until proven otherwise. I'm going to give Tucker the benefit of the doubt and say that he would make a 48-yard field goal to win the game in the Super Bowl, even though he hasn't necessarily done that twice or whatever. But yeah, Tucker, greatest kicker of all time. If he goes out and misses 2 kicks in the Super Bowl, let's say the Ravens make the Super Bowl, he misses 2 big kicks, then I'll downgrade him. But right now,
yeah,
of all time.
Yeah, I would agree with that. But I guess the other game-winning field goal today was the Raiders and the Dolphins game. This was a crazy game also because, well, obviously the news about Tua being out he went on IR, so he's at least out for the next 3 games. So honestly, I would say this puts the Dolphins, I think they're out of the playoff contention, and I don't even know how much better they are with Tua, but I think Brissett's just a downgrade, and I just don't think their defense isn't good enough, and the rest of the team isn't good enough to overcome that. So I think they're probably even out of the playoff contention, even after 3 weeks. But this was a game where they're up 14-0, then they give up 25 straight points, and then they somehow come back and tie the game on a 2-point conversion, touchdown right at the end of the game. Overtime was crazy. It was back and forth. Field goal by both teams, and then finally the Raiders had that game-winning field goal right at the end. But this was a crazy game. Again, the Raiders 3-0. Are they going to end up with 10, 11 wins? I don't know. Maybe. Again, they already have 3 wins already. So we'll see. But this was just another pretty good game. Again, there were some pretty good games today. A lot of good finishes for the games today.
Yeah, no, for sure. On the Dolphins, I would agree. I think they're kind of out of playoff contention at this point. I mean, okay, it's tough. It's really tough for somebody to say that 3 weeks into the season, but yeah, I don't trust Brissett.
Yeah.
And I mean, at this point, the Dolphins are like, I mean, I don't even know how the Dolphins front office has to feel because Tua's out. And this isn't like a a situation where like a Mahomes gets hurt and you're like, yeah, he'll be back. He's going to be fine. Like, not only is Tua questionable as your starting quarterback, he's had injury problems his whole career ever since pretty much college. I mean, you have to be questioning. I don't know what the trade offers were for Watson. I don't know what their discussions were, but I mean, if you're the Dolphins, you might be looking on that back on that right now and saying, if we had traded for Watson right now, it would be 2-1, not 1-2. Well, actually, I guess I don't know if he'd be playing right now, but let's just say he was playing and you had made that trade offer. Your team would be so much better off right now. And now, if you go back and try to make an offer for Watson, assuming he's not an awful person, I guess we'll find out on that. But if you go back and try to trade for Watson, I'm not sure Tua is really an asset. I'm not really sure he was an asset, like a big asset to begin with. But now I just don't see how Tua could be any sort of asset at this point. I mean,
Well, I did hear something that said before the trade deadline, November 2nd, I think the trade deadline is, they, I think, are going to go back and talk to the Texans about Watson.
they'll have talks. If the offer in the first place was 3 or 4 first rounders plus Tua plus somebody else, now it's probably 4 or 5 first rounders plus somebody else. And we don't even care about Tua. You can throw him in if you want, like we'll take him, but we're not treating him as anything other than a lottery ticket. Whereas before, I think you could have made the argument that the injuries are behind him. To me, I mean, there's no way for me to say it. I think he's just he's an injury prone player at this point. It's just too many injuries. It's too many injuries. I know he's only like 23 or whatever, 22, but it's just too many injuries. They've added up, and not only about the injuries, but he just hasn't been very good. I mean, he got outplayed by Mac Jones in week 1, even though they won that game. Mac Jones was a better quarterback that week, not by a significant margin, but still.
And again, I'm not a big Tua guy, and he definitely is injury prone. There's no doubt about it. But I will say this injury, I mean, that could happen to anyone. He got crushed on a sack and just got landed on by some 300-pound defensive lineman, and he broke his ribs. So I will give him at least some slack for it. But I do agree. Obviously, he's injury prone. There's no doubt about it. He probably would have got injured no matter what, even if that didn't happen. And you know, if you're the Dolphins, you just have to be kicking yourself because Herbert was right there. I mean, sitting there for you at what, 6 or 5, I think it was, and you passed up on him. And obviously, he's going to be one of the top quarterbacks in the league. He's probably already top 10, right? So, I mean, you just have to be kicking yourself because, you know, if you have Herbert on this team, you're set for the next 15 years.
Yeah, I mean, they've made crucial mistakes at quarterbacks in the past, essentially ever since Dan Marino. I mean, I don't remember the last good quarterback they had. So,
I don't.
I mean, they could have had Breeze. They could have had a lot of they could have had a lot of different quarterbacks by now, and they've really have had nothing. So
and that's why they've basically been like, I think the last 20 years, like their overall record is like 500. Like if not 500, it's like just below or maybe just above, probably just below. But that's what happens when you don't have a quarterback. So
they've had some good teams. Honestly, they've had some like decent.
Yeah. I mean, the year they made the playoffs, even with Tannehill, then Matt Moore came in when Tannehill was injured, and they had Matt Moore or whatever. I mean, they made the play. I think they were 10-6 that year, right? They played the Steelers in that first round. Like, you know, they've definitely had some decent teams. They just never had the quarterback right.
Yeah, or maybe even I mean, they've also had the coach wrong for a while. Hopefully, Brian Flores. Yeah. I think Brian Flores is the right coach for this team, but I mean, we'll see. If he can't find a quarterback, then he's essentially not the right coach because it's awful. But
he may not. Yeah, if the quarterback's not found, he may just be gone just because you never found the quarterback. Even if he was the right coach, if you don't have the quarterback, at some point you have to cut ties. But that was, unless there's another game you want to talk about. I mean, we could talk about the rookie quarterbacks and their performance today, just because it wasn't great on all ends for everyone. I guess we could do that. I mean, I guess I'll just read stats wise. So we'll start with Justin Fields. So his first career start, tough game. I mean, you have to go against the Browns in Cleveland. I think that's just a really tough spot to put him in. Again, you can't. I mean, Dalton's injured. It's not like you're playing Fields over Dalton, but it's just a really tough start for him. And also, I will say, Nagy, I don't really understand what he was doing with the play calling. I watched a little bit of this game, but from what I saw on Twitter and just a little bit what I was watching, I mean, I think Fields had 9 pass attempts like halfway through the third quarter, and they were losing the entire game. So it's like, I know you're trying to set up the run to help them play action, but like if you're losing it, I mean, at some point you just got to throw the ball. Like it was really weird play calling. He finished 6 of 20, 68 yards, no picks, no interceptions. Got sacked 9 times, 4.5 by Myles Garrett. That's going to help Defensive Player of the Year. I picked him for Defensive Player of the Year, right? Yeah, okay. So that's going to help for that. But just a really bad game for Fields. If you have any thoughts on it, you could say now, or do you want to wait till after I read all the other ones?
I mean, I don't really have too many thoughts on Fields, honestly. A disappointing debut, but yeah, I would agree on just a bad spot to open up, and you didn't have a choice. It just bad spots open up. That Browns D line, specifically Garrett, is insane.
Yeah.
There's not much you can do. I mean, look, he didn't look great, but not only the Bears a horrible organization, but you got to go against Myles Garrett. It's just tough.
Yeah, really tough. Next, Trevor Lawrence. He finished 22 of 34, 219 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 picks, got sacked 3 times. QBR of 18. That's really bad. Just has I don't know if it's the play
Is that on the
calling.
100 scale or the 158.3 scale?
QBR, that's out of 100. I'm pretty sure.
Well, there's 2 different like QBR. So are you on ESPN? Or?
I'm on ESPN.
Okay, so I'd assume that's out of 100 then.
Yeah, it's out of 100 because your quarterback rating is up to 158.3. Your QBR is out of 100. So 18, obviously that's not good. But they were winning this game obviously going into half because that kick return. They even looked pretty decent coming out of half, but he just hasn't looked good so far. Again, he's never experienced a team like this. High school, college. He's always been the best player on the best team. So I'm not worried, but it's, maybe a little concerning just how bad he's looked. All the comparisons to Luck and Manning coming out of the draft, you would just assume he'd play. I know Manning didn't have a great rookie year either, but you would just assume he just looked better. Even if the stats weren't better, you'd assume he looked better.
He's had flashes to me still, and I still think he's the best quarterback in the draft class. I'm not going to overreact on that. That's still my take. I still not sure how close it is. It's probably close, but I still think he's the best quarterback in the draft class. To me, I'm worried if I'm a Jags fan, but it's not Trevor's fault to me. I mean, listen, what does Trevor Lawrence look like he could use right now? Like 50% more reps in training camp, which he got eaten up by Gardner Minshew. What does he look like he could use right now? A stable organization, an organization that has, ideally at this point, a coach that isn't Urban Meyer. Urban Meyer, to me, he's done. I mean, this is his one and done in the NFL. To me, he's looked awful. I can't name one good thing he's done as a head coach. Horrible, just bad decisions after bad decisions. We'll see how it plays out. I mean, you give him the full year for sure. But if the Jaguars continue on this pace, which is pretty much, we have to get a kick return for a touchdown to really be competitive with the team. And then even then we still lose by double digits.
Yeah.
I mean, he's done. I think that stunts Trevor Lawrence's development, but if you can still get like a competent head coach in the system, and listen, it's only been 3 games, so Urban Meyer could still be a good head coach. We don't technically know yet. If you can just have something competent around him, even Luck had stuff that was better than this around him. And Luck didn't even look great in his rookie year either. He looked really good, but he didn't look like, listen, RG3 might have had a better rookie year than Luck. And everyone says how Luck had nothing around him and almost set him up for failure. People will say that that's essentially why he retired early, is just because his body and he was done, and the Colts really didn't give him an offensive line until after he retired. Then they had got a good offensive line somehow. But Trevor Lawrence is getting way worse than what Luck got in Indianapolis. And maybe I'm just coping with the fact that I said Lawrence was going to be the best quarterback out of this draft class, and he's looked maybe the worst. But I still think he's shown flashes. He's going to be the best quarterback in the draft class. I'm not too worried, but the Jaguars really need to like find something competent because it's all looking bad. I mean, even began before the season started with the training camp reps and then Etienne getting hurt, which is obviously out of your control, but a questionable first-round pick to begin with in the first place. So
yeah, and the one concerning play was they had a flea flicker and like he had pressure in his face, and he did like a fadeaway pass on all the way to the other side of the field, pick 6. Like, I just don't think you ever saw that in college. Like, he would never make that throw in college, and it just again, I think it'll be really good as well, but it's just like that's just like something that you've never seen from him, and for some reason you're seeing these really bad plays and really bad reads.
It's just it's situations that he hasn't been put in yet. I mean,
yeah.
it's a fault of the coaching staff, in my opinion. It's also a fault of Trevor Lawrence, don't get me wrong, but it's a fault of the coaching staff for essentially just not setting him up for, a situation like you're getting just pressured the whole game. Your team is awful around you, because that's essentially what he has. He has nothing around him. He just hasn't been set up for this, and he hasn't ever dealt with it. I mean, in Clemson, he had the best or second best team pretty much his whole college career. And obviously in high school, like any other 5-star recruiter or whatever, like you're going to be by far you're the only like legitimate college player out there anyways. So, but yeah.
Yeah. All right, moving on. Next guy. So the guy was drafted right after Lawrence, Zach Wilson, 19 of 35, 160, no touchdowns, 2 picks, got sacked 5 times. And they got shut out as well. He just hasn't looked good. He just hasn't looked good at all. Last week when he threw 4 picks, he was trying to make, the more exciting play and wasn't doing his checkdowns and wasn't making the easy play. This week it was more just, I don't really know. I was watching that game and it was just, I don't think he even really played bad. I just think that they have no weapons around him at all. The offensive line was getting killed all day by, a good defensive line, but nothing amazing. I would say, no Bradley Chubb. It was basically just Von Miller. And they were getting pushed around all day. And he just hasn't looked good so far. Same with, the Jets also haven't looked good at all either. But I don't know. It's somewhat concerning how unprepared possibly he's looked. Maybe the offensive play calling hasn't been as good as it should have been. But I guess what are your thoughts on Wilson?
It's the same. I don't even feel it's this exact same thing I just said about Lawrence. I just don't feel as great about Wilson.
Yeah,
I think Lawrence is a better quarterback in their careers, but I mean, Wilson's dealing with the exact same thing in New York, if not worse than what Lawrence is dealing with. It's an awful offensive line, pretty much nothing. He has nothing offensively. I mean, does he have anything offensively? Pretty much no. His team just gets bullied this team doesn't even look like it should be in the NFL. Like it's awful. And I can't take much away from it. He hasn't looked great, but how much of it is his fault? How much of it is he has nothing around him? If he was going to have a great rookie year, then he'd at least look better than he is right now. So it is somewhat his fault. He hasn't looked outstanding. He hasn't shown as many flashes to me as somebody like Lawrence has, but he's still shown flashes. Like there's still throws that you're like, this is why they drafted him. But obviously that's only like 1% of the snaps really. The other 99 is either Wilson making some rookie mistakes that almost all rookie quarterbacks make, especially ones coming from BYU that have essentially played. I mean, that talent he was playing against is closer to high school talent than it is closer to like prime NFL talent. So yeah, if I'm a Jets fan, I'm worried, but again, it's not because I think Wilson's going to be just a flat out bust and he doesn't belong in the league. It's because this team is doing exactly what it did with Darnold. It's doing exactly what it did with Geno Smith, Mark Sanchez, any quarterback that they've drafted. They're doing the exact same thing again, which is like just an awful situation. Somehow they get a top 5 pick every year and they can't manage to put a competent roster around them, which essentially means their later round drafting is awful, even if their first rounders are all right, which they typically even haven't been. But yeah, I mean, nothing good is around him. Is Saleh the right coach? I don't know. We'll find out, I guess. We got to give it some more time, but as of right now, I'm not too worried. It's just like the Jets are awful. So
yeah,
there are some people that thought they were going to be like semi-competitive this year. I don't remember what their over-under was for our win totals that we did earlier and before the season started, but I'm pretty sure we both took the under. I'd be disappointed in myself if I took the over on that, which I don't think I did. But if I did, I'd be really disappointed in myself for doing so.
They were at 6. So do you think you took under or over?
I 100% took the under there.
Yes.
I would have taken the over, but I think you took the under.
I took the under.
Okay.
I think I probably had him at like 4.
Yeah, I think we wrote it down whenever we did that stuff. I think we wrote it down somewhere. We'd have to check it later, but
I have it in front of me. I don't have I just have us saying under or over, but
you have both of us under. Okay. Yeah, we both took the under. This team, listen, the fact that they're at 6 for the over under, which means essentially 50% of people are taking the over. like who's taking the over on that? I'm sorry, but this team is not. I mean, I don't even think the Broncos are that good of a team. I think they have a really good defense, and I think they have a solid offensive arsenal around them. But Bridgewater's not. He's not all that, and their pieces are still young on the offense. So this team, to me, they got shut out 26-0 by a team that's probably like truly a 9-8 team.
Yeah.
So it's not good for the Jets.
Yeah, for sure. All right, last quarterback, Mac Jones. Like I was saying before, I'm starting to really like him. And again, he didn't play amazing today. 30 of 51, 270, 1 touchdown, 3 picks. But I don't know. I just feel like he knows his game. I think the Patriots know his game. When they get the play calling down, when he gets more comfortable, on an NFL field and everything, I think he'll be a lot better. I think year 2 he's gonna have a really good year, and maybe he'll still finish up really good this year. But I do really like him. I think he is going to be one of the better quarterbacks in this draft.
This was his worst game. I mean, obviously, when you throw 3 picks, it's going to be your worst game. But he still played all right. He didn't have an awful game by any means. I think it's not necessarily just Mac Jones' fault they lost this game. I think McDaniels had an awful game, just a bunch of bad play calls in the red zone, just a really bland offense. This offense struggled to get started early in the game, and McDaniels really didn't help with just some really bland play calls, just some 3 and outs off the bat, and really no attempt to like put any sort of creativity. And as the Patriots get further away from, having Brady on their team, the more you just kind of peel back these layers of things that you thought were other people's, strengths and stuff. Like you thought McDaniels was a really top tier offensive coordinator who essentially was in the head coaching talks for 10 years. Even after failing in Denver, he was still in head coaching talks after being a good coordinator in New England. He's looked really questionable to start this year. A lot of stuff on New England has looked questionable. The offense in general has looked questionable, and it is Mac Jones' fault, but I think he had an all right game. He had some really bad plays. The picks certainly weren't good. The first pick he threw was certainly not a good pick at all. But yeah, I mean, like all rookies, we're going to see the ups and downs. I'm not worried about it. If you go back and watch our live stream of the draft, I wasn't happy about the Mac pick. My opinion has changed since then. I think Mac Jones can 100% win a Super Bowl. Listen, it's early, so I'm not going to go overboard on it. I don't think he's the Brady. I don't think he's the best quarterback in this draft class. But I'm not overreacting from this game either. It's a bad look though, because I did pick this team to win the Super Bowl and they just lost to the Saints. So
yeah, and again, that wasn't a good pick when you made it, and it definitely isn't a good pick now. But
no. I'll just say both of my Super Bowl picks right now are under 500. So
yeah. And my 2 Super Bowl picks are 3-0 and 2-1. So I'll take that.
If I lost the right to make fun of Rob Parker, Skip Bayless, Stephen A, if I just lost that right to make fun of them because my takes have been just so bad lately, I think I have lost the right. I have to those are now I'm below those guys now. If we're doing an analyst tier list, I'm below them now because my takes have been that bad.
Yeah, you got to go 5-0 next week.
I do have to go 5-0. The fact that I went 0-5 is really bad. Just everything I thought was going to happen, essentially the opposite. It takes talent to go 0-5, but ultimately that talent's not helping me out. So it's not looking good for me. We haven't decided what we're going to do yet, by the way, for that. What we're going to do for whoever has the worst predictions. Right now, I'm thinking it's whoever has the worst predictions gets a birthday party thrown for them. Because it's looking bad for me, but yeah.
We still got to decide on that. I'm comfortably in the lead, I would say, after this week, so I'm feeling good. But
I'm interested. This is a little bit off topic, but I'm interested going back to the quarterbacks. I'm interested how this rookie class ends up comparing to past and future quarterback classes.
Well, so I'm actually glad you said that because I was thinking 2018. You have Baker, Darnold, Allen, Lamar, and then Josh Rosen. So that's 5 quarterbacks. Obviously, there was 5 quarterbacks taken in this draft with Lawrence, Wilson, Lance, Jones, and Fields. So who do you think is going to be if you were to assign one guy to be that guy from 2018? Who is that? So who's going to be Josh Rosen? Who's going to be Lamar? Who's going to be Allen? Who's going to be Darnold? Who's going to be Baker?
To me, Zach Wilson is Josh Rosen, 100%. If I'm having again, if you're making me pick,
yeah,
That's who I'm picking for my Rosen. My Josh Allen, which is essentially the best quarterback.
Yeah.
I'm going to go Trevor Lawrence. Now, with that being said, it doesn't look great right now, but I'm not sure any quarterback looks great to be a Josh Allen right now. To begin Josh Allen's career, he looked like a guy that was going to be like a bottom tier quarterback with a big arm and nothing else, but he obviously turned it around. I think Trevor Lawrence, again, provided he can get that Sean McDermott help that essentially Josh Allen got, because the Bills were not a great organization before this either. I mean, they were essentially god awful ever since their 4 back-to-back Super Bowl appearances. So I would have Trevor Lawrence be my Josh Allen. Who's the Lamar?
Which I would say is the second. Would you say second or third best quarterback?
Who would be the second best? I'm
Baker.
sorry, I have to put Baker.
Well, I would assume Baker is either second.
Okay, I would have Lamar second, then Darnold third, and Baker fourth. But
I mean, really?
Not so far. But listen, no, never mind. I actually
Come on. I don't think you're. Right.
I want to do that just because I hate the Browns, but
we'll see what Darnold looks like without McCaffrey, because I think he's going to look a lot different.
Listen, I'm doubling down on my week 1 take. Week 1, I did say I'd rather have Darnold over Lamar for the rest of their careers. I think Darnold's the second best quarterback in this draft class. I mean, right now he hasn't proved that, but I think he will be. Who's the second best quarterback? Lamar Jackson so far, though, has been the second best quarterback for sure. Out of this draft class, I'm not sure. It's so hard to compare somebody to Lamar Jackson from this current draft class.
Yeah, I would say a vague answer would probably be like someone who has the ability to be, like one of the top quarterbacks. I guess. I don't know. I mean, Lamar won an MVP, so I guess who do you think maybe could win an MVP? I don't know. Something at least have really good team success. I don't know.
My options I've used Lawrence and Wilson so far. So my options are Lance, Jones, and
Fields.
I would go Fields, I guess. I mean, he's the fastest out of this class, and I guess he has the potential to win an MVP. I'll go with Fields, I guess. I don't know. But I think Fields is the second best quarterback from this draft class. No, I don't. So
I think I'd probably say Lance is more like would be my Lamar.
I was debating between those two.
He's in like a real. I think like the situation Lamar was in with Flacco and the Ravens. It's a really good organization with an aging quarterback. And I know Garoppolo's not aging, but it's a really good organization where when he comes in and whenever he's going to be the starter, they're going to win 10 plus games almost every single year. And that's what the Ravens are going to do. So I would probably say Lance.
Sure. It's hard for me to compare these two classes. I think 5 years down the road from now, we're going to be looking back and saying the 2021 class was a better class than 2018. I don't know if you would agree with that or not. I think we will.
Well, I think Lawrence is going to be good. Fields is tricky because I think he's good. It's just the team, and like I think it's who they hire as their next head coach. Because obviously Nagy's going to be gone, so whoever they hire as their next head coach, if it's Dable, maybe he goes to Chicago. I think that matters a lot because that could just boost them up a couple spots just off that, and then obviously the play. But it's tough because Allen, again, he's a top 6, top 7 quarterback in the league. Lamar's won an MVP. Baker is a pretty good quarterback on a team that's going to win 10 plus games. So it is hard. And again, Darnold's looked better, obviously, in a new situation. So it's going to be hard, but we'll see.
We will see. I think the 2021 draft class is better, but we'll find out. Colts Titans was a game I got wrong, and Wentz did play that game, and it was a game I still got wrong.
That was I didn't really watch much of the game. I'm going to be honest, but the Colts 0-3. I don't think many people expected them to be 0-3.
I definitely didn't, and saying if they lost this game, they'd still win the division. I still think the Colts are the best team in this division. I don't think the Titans showed in today's game that they were like an objectively just like a better team to the point where like the Colts can't come back and win this division. I still think the Colts can. I don't think the Titans are very great. I mean, this Colts team is injured. This Colts so far, the first 3 games is their worst case scenario. The Colts could not be in a worse position right now, and they only lost by 9 points to the Titans. And, I still think the Colts are the best team in this division. I don't think the Titans are all that. So, I mean, we'll find out, but Yeah, it was a game that I didn't watch nearly as much as well as, we have how many 1 o'clock games are there in week 3 this year without buys? There's so many 1 o'clock games that it's like you can't catch every detail from every game, but
There was 9.
yeah, like you're not catching every detail of, you kind of have to pick and choose which games you're going to concentrate on. Like Falcons, Giants, other than Falcons fans, I don't think many people are tuning in.
I didn't watch it at all.
Maybe maybe the Saquon fantasy owners, maybe, but
for him to put up 10 points. But I will say the Colts schedule, again, they started off tough with Seahawks, Rams, Titans. I mean, that's division, but still. But they go Dolphins next week. You have to win that game. Then you play Ravens at Baltimore Monday night. That's just a really tough game. That's almost like a must win because they're 1-3 and you lose that game. Now you're 1-4. You do get the Texans the next week, so you're assuming a win, but then you're 49ers, then Titans again. Then your Jets, Jags, then your Bills, Bucks. It's definitely you really got to win these next 3 games, I would say.
It's a really tough schedule looking at it. I mean, to go to the Dolphins is always tough.
Yeah.
Like you really needed that Rams win.
Yeah.
Against the Rams. To go to the Dolphins and beat them is always tough down there. The Ravens, obviously, the Texans should be a free win, but then Niners again, and then Titans again.
It's gonna be Jets, Jags, but yeah.
It's gonna be tough, but I still think they can do it. They have some just free wins from being in the AFC South. So I'm not gonna count this team out by any means, but Wentz needs to get healthy. Their whole team needs to get healthy, and they need to get back into the shape they were last year. And I think they can be the best team in this division. So
yeah. But I would say that's probably it. I guess one just quick thing. The Bengals, they're 2-1 again, and the Steelers are terrible. We said it before the week started, but they're awful. And they got completely outclassed by the Bengals, which I mean that just should tell you something right there about your team. But Bengals 2-1. They haven't looked bad. I will say their defense has been pretty good.
They've looked solid for sure. I mean, they've looked like a competent team, which they have not looked like since maybe like Andy Dalton prime 2015-ish days, when those teams were making the playoffs and losing in round 1 every year. So it's certainly looking good. We never really had a hard take on Zach Taylor on this show. I don't think either of us were like super like either fire him now or, keep him for sure. We were kind of like, we'll see what happens. You're not going anywhere anyways. So you keep him, you don't. He's looked solid. I mean, for the people that were team fire Zach Taylor, so far they've looked wrong. I was not expecting the Bengals to be able to be 2-1, even though I like the Bengals. I don't know if I love the Bengals, but even though I like the Bengals and I really don't like the Steelers, I was still expecting the Steelers to be a better team than the Bengals. And the Steelers, they got completely outclassed. So a surprising outcome for sure.
Yeah, and the Bengals potentially could even be 3-0. I mean, last week, Burrow throws 3 picks. Dalton gets injured. Fields looks terrible when it comes in. You could have won that game. I know they could have lost week 1 against the Vikings, but they potentially could be 3-0. But
I think they could have been 3-0. They could have been 1-2. They actually belong as a 2-1 team. They've played like a 2-1 team, which is very good. I mean, if you're a Bengals fan, you have to be ecstatic the way the season's gone so far.
Yeah, and you're probably looking at 6 wins, I would say. I think you're happy with 6 wins.
Well, I think you'd expect around 6, and right now you're on pace for a lot more than 6. So
yeah, but I think we both know that that's not going to happen. They're not going to be. I would be very surprised if they got to 8-9 wins. They're just not that good of a team unless Burrow really starts to play really well. But I would expect 6, maybe 7 wins. Again, still a tough division. They still got to play the Browns and Ravens and even the Steelers again. So I don't think you're really expecting
8 wins. This team can hit 8 wins. They're 2-1 already. They only have to win 6 more games.
They have to out of 5 more games in their division, they at least have to go 2-3 in my mind to get to 8 wins.
Yeah, I mean maybe.
And that means beating the Ravens or the Browns at least once, because and then you also have to beat the Steelers again. So I don't know. I think it's tough.
I mean, okay, so they host the Jaguars this Thursday.
That
be a win, right?
That should be a win, but you know what? That's gonna be a really weird game.
It is a weird game, but I'm just saying,
It should be a win though.
Bengals. Then obviously they host the Packers. That's going to be tough, but they get to travel to Detroit after that. They get to play the Jets as well. They get to play the Steelers again, which, I mean, now they're playing at home versus the Steelers.
That schedule gets really tough towards the end of the season.
It does get tough, but they have three, to me, like easy wins, right? And obviously, you know, the NFL is the NFL. It doesn't always go how you intend, but you're also going to get a win on the road that you wouldn't expect the Bengals to get as well. So to me, like, they have 3 guaranteed wins in this season still. So they're at least a 5-win team, and I think they can rattle off 3 more wins in this whole year. We'll see. But yeah, I mean, you have to be ecstatic if you're a Bengals fan so far, for sure.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think that's probably it, right? Unless you have anything else.
No, that's pretty much it.
Yeah. So, pretty, like you said, pretty good day. We went over most of the games. A couple we didn't really touch, but yeah, some good finishes, some blowouts as well. But Cowboy Eagle Monday night game tomorrow, and then week 4 next week. Like you said, Jaguars Bengals is that first game on Thursday. We'll make our picks on the next episode. So yeah, I think that's it. And then we'll both have our reaction on the Clips channel to both of our games. You know, Drew with the Patriots, I'm with the Cowboys. That'll probably be out in the middle of the week at some point. So check that out as well on the Clips channel. And then for this channel, like we said, the week 4, looking forward to week 4 is going to come out as well at some point in the middle of the week.
Yeah. Yeah. So.
Yeah, I think that's it. So, yeah, well, I guess we'll see whenever the next episode is. Like we said, middle of the week at some point. Check out the socials, other channels, everything. Yeah, that's
Monday. You're still riding the Cowboys tomorrow?
Yeah, 3.5. That's what I think I had them at. Yeah, 3.5. Yeah, why would I not?
I'm picking the Cowboys as well. I mean, it wasn't a part of my official predictions or whatever, but for the record, I'll pick the Cowboys as well to win. I'll just pick them to win outright. We'll see what happens. Should be a good game.
I'm expecting. What was that?
Oh, I was gonna say I'm not looking forward to Thursday's game. That's definitely not a game we're gonna be dying to cover. In general, but
yeah,
it was exciting. So
hopefully that game is just like a blowout, so you don't have to watch it.
That's fair, I guess.
But I already know it's not going to be a blowout. It's going to be right down to the wire, and it's probably going to be like 17-17 or something, and it's going to be a really bad game to watch.
Yeah, I mean, ideally, I hope it's like a 35-34, like Joe Burrow and Trevor Lawrence just look amazing, and like it's just a game that's down to the wire and comes down to who's the worst head coach, Urban Meyer or Zach Taylor. I'd find that entertaining.
There's a good chance that probably happens.
That might happen. Although in all actuality, it probably will be 14-14. Trevor Lawrence 3 picks, Burrow 3 picks.
Yeah.
And who wants to choke away the game harder?
And then someone gets strip sacked with 50 seconds left, and that's the game.
Yeah. All right. Anyways, Brandon gave the spiel. We'll be back middle of the week. Appreciate it. Like, comment, all that. Check out the Clips channel. Goodbye.